Hello everyone and welcome to the Wiggle Café. Nice to see you here again. Say hi if you are out there. So today we have some very special guests with us from Science in Sport. We've got a really action-packed show for you today. So we'll be doing a competition today and you can win this amazing jersey from British Cycling. That's a Team GB jersey. It's been signed by the reigning champions in Team Pursuit. So that is Katie Archibald, Laura Kenny, Nia Evans and Emily Kay. So that is an amazing prize. Stay tuned to win that. Yeah, I want that on my wall. It's so unfair I have to give it away. So yeah, stay tuned for that. We'll also be talking everything nutrition with our guests from Science and Sport. So if you have anything coming up that you have any sort of burning questions about, do get those questions into us and we will try and answer as many as possible. So first of all, I'm going to give you a head start on the competition because this morning I did a little mini poll around the office on which flavour we like of the energy gels. So Science and Sport do this amazing isotonic energy gel, which a lot of us use because we go on like staff ride outs and runs. We're doing one this afternoon in fact. The good thing about the isotonic gel is it comes in so many flavours. I want you to tell me which one you think we like best in the office. And it was a very close call between two flavours. I'm not going to tell you which, because that would be giving you too much of a clue. What I will say is there is orange, lemon and lime, pink grapefruit, tropical, vanilla, apple, fruit salad, and black currant. So let me know which one you think is our favourite, and we will answer that very soon, but yeah, if you get the right answer, then we'll put you in a draw and you could win the jersey. So we'll also be doing our ping-pong competition as well to see who from Science and Sport can get the ping-pong ball into the cup. If you've watched our show before, you'll know it's a bit of a challenge for some people. We've had one DNF so far, Nick Anderson from Poland. Really? Yeah, he DNF'd because you've only got 3 minutes to do it. Okay. If you go over 3 minutes, you'll DNF. You'll see Steph from Fern. She came from the outdoor brand Fern, and she was just inside the 3 minutes. She was 2 minutes 37. But the one you've got to beat is actually Saffron Small, who is from British Cycling. She's a ambassador for their 1 in a Million campaign. 17 seconds 54, which. You know, I couldn't quite believe, but go Saffron.
Yeah, I'm thinking like
oh my God.
slightly, yeah, I'm definitely looking at that end.
My name is going to be underneath.
Looking at that end.
God.
So yeah, so do let us know if you just tuned in. People are saying flavours because I've asked what flavour is Wiggle's favourite basically of the energy gels. So do let us know what you think. And you'll go into the draw to win the jersey. So I'm going to introduce you to our guests. You're probably wondering who they are. So we've got Simone, how would you describe yourself, Simone?
Oh Lord. How would I describe it? I am a triathlete.
Yeah, okay. If you've got any triathlon questions as well, feel free to ask them and so we'll see what we can answer. And we've also got Ben, who is like an expert in nutrition. I mean, what's your actual job?
So I'm performance nutritionist at Science in Sport, and main background is around endurance sports, so anything swim, bike, run.
Yes?
Yeah, my focus.
Well, we've certainly got a lot of endurance athletes out there, but actually you can kind of answer questions on any level as well, endurance or shorter distances, even if you're just getting into sport and you're kind of bamboozled by the array of nutrition out there. There's so much stuff out there. Send in your questions and we will get to them very shortly. I'm going to just ask you, Simone, just to tell us a bit about what you do, because you're a triathlete.
Mm-hmm.
How did you come to triathlon?
I got into triathlon in 2012 actually. So I don't really come from a swim or bike background. I was living in London, working as a personal trainer, fancied the challenge, and basically learned how to swim, learned how to bike, and the rest is history. I actually signed up for an Ironman and not a triathlon to begin with, which was a little bit out of my depth, and then completely panicked, and then decided to take on a coach, and just absolutely fell in love with the sport from there, really. I just absolutely love it, yeah.
Super.
Yeah.
So what do you love best about it?
I love the variety. I love to learn. Like when I was taught how to swim, I found that a massive challenge. Decided that biking was the one of my favourites until I started getting, into running. I just love the variety of it. I just love the people that you meet in the sports. I just love challenging myself. So
cool. And so you've got your 3 disciplines: swim, bike, run.
Yeah.
Which one do you prefer out of all of them right now?
When I first got into triathlon, I loved the bike. Yeah, I love cycling. I used to just love going out for hours. And then I started to really enjoy the run.
Yeah.
I started to get a little bit better at it. I started to vary the training a little bit more, joined a running group, and so I think now, running would be my favourite. I do love it.
Awesome. I'm more of a bike person myself, I have to say.
No, I do like the bike.
Yeah.
But I just think when I finish a run and I've
Yeah.
been out on a long run, or I've been out on the track, and like the body's just completely fully exhausted, and you've used every last resort, and I do love that feeling.
Yeah. With the 3 disciplines, how do you kind of manage your training? Do you have to kind of sort of rotate what you're doing? Do you have like some sort of schedule, or like how do you prepare?
So I let my coach do that actually. He's really good at periodising all the training.
Yeah.
It can be very, very difficult trying to fit all 3 in, as well as having the time to recover from each session. So what we normally would do is we would kind of periodise what we want to work on in blocks. So if we think that the swim needs a little bit more work, we would work on the swim. If we feel that the cycling needs a little bit more work, we'll obviously put a big block of cycling in, and again with the running. But I also think it's difficult, because if you're wanting to focus on your weakness, you also still need to work on your strengths, because that's what will carry you through your race. It is difficult, and I think majority of the time it's a fine balance. It's very easy to overtrain, and that's something that I suppose over the last few years that I've struggled with, because I love to train, so I love to put in the hours. So it's just my coach is constantly trying to hold me back, and so he kind of periodises all the training, but it is quite difficult.
So one of my questions actually that I don't know if it's relevant now is, how do you motivate yourself? Because we've got a nasty storm out there where we're actually doing a staff ride out and a staff run out this afternoon. So we're all leaving our desks at 2:00 and going out to get active, and the rain is sideways. So maybe for the benefit of our staff here, you can say like how can they just grit their teeth and get out there?
How do you grit your teeth? I think for me personally, when I go into a certain session, I have like an objective in that session. So whether it be if I just want to go and do like a long Mars, if the weather's bad, I do sometimes do a lot of indoor work on the turbo. But I love that, like sadistically, like I love just being there and just tuning into my pace. It's really good actually doing lots of indoor work, because you get to focus on your nutrition strategy, and I think that's when I really kind of got my nutrition strategy together by doing a lot of indoor work, because you have everything there that you need, and you kind of then focus on setting a timer every 15 minutes, every like 30 minutes to either eat or to drink. But in terms of motivation, I mean, if the weather's bad, I think, you know, it's something quite nice actually about going out in the rain and coming back and just thinking, oh God, that was pretty grim. But yet, you still get a lot from that when you finish the session. So I always go into a session thinking, God, you're going to feel really good after. Doesn't matter how grim it is when you're out, but you know, that feeling of actually ticking the box is really nice. So I always think of the end,
Yeah, so any Wiggle staff out there that are watching,
get
that
yourself
are being
out. Or sit on a turbo and just drink
we have like, I think 2 turbos in the office. That's not going to happen. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to ask as well. Obviously, we've got a focus on women's sport for the month of March because it was International Women's Day last week, and we know from statistics that there's kind of an imbalance in some sports. So like cycling, there's more men than women still taking part, and I just wanted to kind of ask your thoughts about kind of why women in particular should kind of get into sport, what you get out of it and what they can get out of it.
For me personally, getting into sport has changed many things. I think it's gave me a lot of confidence. It's actually really interesting. I think I wouldn't say women in particular, but I think there's a lot of women out there who have this perception of that they can't do what men do. And I think, you know, it's what the mind lets you to do. So like, I think going out and just training and just enjoying it will, one, give you the confidence, and two, I think you surprise yourself in terms of what you can actually do. I mean, there's a lot of times I've gone into either a race or a training session and I've thought to myself, there's no way I'm going to be able to hit these numbers, or there's no way I'll be able to do that, and I've surprised myself by doing it, and actually that gives you so much confidence. And I think women should, I wouldn't say necessarily put themselves down, but don't underestimate in terms of what the body can actually do. You know, believe in yourself, do it, try. You know, if you go into every session just willing to, you know, to put yourself in, you know, I think you'll be really surprised in terms of what you get out of it. I think for me that's what I've got out of it.
And there's that old saying, isn't there? You never regret getting out there and just even if it's not training for something, you never regret going out for a ride or a run. You might not want to do it initially, but when you get back, it's that feeling, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I did it. And
I also think what's really important is it's sometimes the sessions or the training rides, or you know, the ones that you find the most difficult or the ones that you don't want to do, that you actually look back on, that give you the most. And I think you learn a lot about yourself if you're hanging on to somebody's wheel, or you're doing something that you don't really want to do, you don't feel that you can do it, you get a lot out of those sessions because you learn a lot about yourself. You learn that you've got more sticking power than what you could have, and I just think,
great words. So you've inspired me to get out there.
That's one person.
So I'm just going to go on to a few questions from our audience. So first of all, David Morris wants to know, how frequently and how far do you swim per week?
How frequently? Recently, I've been dealing with a foot injury, so I've had 2 stress fractures on my foot. So I have increased my swim volume a little bit. What's actually really important is my coach didn't get me swimming loads, we just focused on the quality of the swims. So at the moment I swim between 5 and 6 days a week. We tend to do 2 endurance sessions, so we'll go to, I never swim over 4.5 to 5k. I know there's a lot of girls out there who like to put in the volume in the swim, but I wouldn't class myself as a swimmer, and I find it more mentally draining to put in swims over 5k. So we'll do 2 endurance sessions, we'll do maybe 2 speed sessions, keeping them to around about 3k, even 2.5k, and we'll focus 1 session on a technique set. And if I do swim 6 times a week, then we'll either, depending on what phase I'm in, we'll either put another endurance set in, or we'll put another speed set in.
Okay. So I've got another question from Daniel Ashcroft. Hello, Daniel. What's your big goal this year? What's your big race?
What's my big race? I have decided to race this year as my first year in the pro fields. I've always raced as a top level amateur, and I decided to kind of bite the bullet and go for it. With my foot injury, I'm hoping to be ready by July.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to do Bolton, Ironman Bolton. If the foot doesn't recover enough, then I will look at doing Ironman Wales.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Good luck. I hope you get better.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to move on because we've also got another guest from Science and Sport who's been there, sitting here very patiently. Before I do that, I'm just going to remind you of our competition. You can win a Team GB jersey that's been signed by the current reigning champions of the Team Pursuit. So they won the Team Pursuit in Rio 2016. That is Katie Archibald, Laura Kenny, I was going to say Trott, Nia Evans and Emily Kay. So if you fancy your chances of winning that jersey, you've just got to tell us what you think our favourite Science and Sport isotonic gel flavour is here in the Wiggle office. I did poll the staff this morning.
Yeah,
It's
I
very...
I do know that. Yeah, I'm trying
I
not to say
actually
it.
don't
Yeah,
even
no,
know the answer. I'm just
yeah.
trying to guess it myself.
Well, it was almost a tie. I have made it a little bit easier for you though, because in the comments you'll see I've actually linked to that product, so you can see what you've got to choose from. There's like tons of flavours, so it's anyone's guess. I did a very scientific survey this morning to find out what we like best here. So get your guesses in and we'll choose a winner at the end of the show. So Ben, you are like an expert on like nutrition for all the endurance sports. You know all about cycling and running and swimming and so. Yeah, well, I was impressed. We were talking before the show and just about some of the sort of science and sports products and everything. So so do get your questions in. I'm gonna we've got some sort of questions lined up, but I'm gonna actually go straight to some customer questions as well.
Awesome.
Okay. So first of all, I've got Laura Quinn who's asking. She's a vegetarian, and she feels like she's lacking protein, especially after a big ride or run. And she wants to know what you'd recommend post-exercise to help with growth and repair of muscles. So talk us through that.
Yeah, so protein massively important in that space. It is tough on the vegetarian diet. You classically think the meats, the high quality proteins come from that, but it is definitely possible. You've just got to be a little bit clever in your planning almost. So it depends when you put your session in. If your session's first thing in the morning, then milk, yogurt, eggs, your more classic breakfast type foods, fantastic in terms of their protein content and would support that. You then also, potentially there's some supplements out there, so soy protein, pea protein, a couple of great high quality options. You don't need that animal product in there if you don't want it. There is ways around it and little bits and pieces you can think of to use. It's a little bit of forward planning, a little bit of thinking is main one that gets you there.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Laura, hopefully that was useful to you. And Damien Footsoy, hello Damien. You want to know if there's any foods that you should avoid on an endurance ride.
That's a great question, actually.
I wouldn't say food specifically. It's all about playing with the correct nutrients at the right time. That's what we see sports nutrition is, and that's how it supports performance. Yeah. On a really long endurance ride, then depends on how hard you're working. But if you're working hard, if you're at the limit, if it's a hilly day out there, today's going to be pretty brutal because of conditions. We know at that time that carbohydrate is going to be the most important thing to fuel exercise. So there you want to prioritise carbohydrate intake and at the same time minimise fats. Fats are going to take slightly longer to digest, they're going to take longer to turn into energy. So at that point, when you really need energy fast, that's when we look at carbohydrates.
So, Simone, what does a typical sort of nutrition plan for a triathlon look like? What kinds of things do you take with you then?
For a race or just in training?
For a race.
For a race, I start before the swim. So I will always take with me the electrolyte carbohydrate drink. And I'll always sip on that before the swim.
Yeah.
So I tend to take that bottle about an hour before and
Uh-huh.
try and get through at least 250 to 300 mils
Yeah.
of that. About 20 minutes before getting in the water, I will take a isotonic gel. Depending actually if I can get hold of a coffee. Sometimes I've not been able to grab a coffee beforehand, so I'll actually take a caffeine gel,
Okay.
which I find really helps. So normally if I'm doing an Ironman, the swim will be less than an hour. So an hour in the water, I come out. Once I get myself on the bike, I then time it after the first 15 minutes. So I kind of let the stomach just settle a little bit from being in the water. Leave it about 22 grams.
Yeah, like it's 58.
Yeah, and then the what's the mini bars?
Mini bars 26.
26.
So what's that, 50? Yeah, so you're about like 80, 90 grams of carbohydrate per hour.
So that's what I try and work for on the bike. Again, I just keep that consistently throughout the bike, and then when I get onto the run, if I can stomach something, I will try and take a bar, but if not, I always take the gels. And I tend to, by the time I've got onto the run, I tend to feel a bit, the stomach's starting to go a little bit, so I'll tend to try and take around about 2 gels on per hour, so like one every half an hour. Yeah, and then I'll just drink the water or something from the aid stations.
Okay.
And then after,
After,
I always have a shake. I
Okay.
always have the whey protein.
Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe this is one for Ben as well. Like, how important is recovery nutrition? Because it's something that sometimes we kind of miss, perhaps.
Yeah. It plays a massive part in your session. So all the work you do before and during a session to train the body to adapt, to become faster, stronger, jump, whatever it might be that you're trying to achieve through training, nutrition has a role to play in that. And recovery nutrition in particular has to start as soon as you finish.
Yeah.
A couple of things are going on in the body, so we see elevated heart rate, elevated blood flow, lots of blood flow to the muscle, so that's a cause of exercise, blood flow directed to the muscle. That's a great time to get nutrients in and push them in towards the muscle where they really want to be and where they're going to actually support, and you can grow and adapt in that way.
Okay, so what kinds of things do science and sport have to support that?
Yep.
Like if I wanted something like just to smash after a ride, so it would be quite easy.
So there's 2 key nutrients that we can look at. There's carbohydrate and there's protein. If you've been out on a tough session and you know those ones in the week that you're really not looking forward to, that's when you've got to get both carbohydrate and protein back in. So a recovery shake, a Rego Plus, something along those lines, because that combines both nutrients. If you've had an easier session, so like a recovery session, some technique work, mobility, you've not necessarily stressed the body too much, but you still cause a little bit of muscle damage, that's when we look at just protein. So Simone mentioned whey protein shakes in that space, and it's periodising that nutrient intake and the 2 products to the goals of the session, the demands of the session, and what you've just put yourself through.
Also, just to touch base, so the lady that asked the questions in terms of getting enough protein and if she's on a vegetarian diet, with the protein bars, like for me, when I'm hungry during the day, I will actually eat the protein bars as a snack.
Yeah.
Would you recommend one of the protein bars maybe as a snack as to get more protein in for her?
Yeah, so protein bars at the minute aren't vegetarian.
Okay.
It kind of depends on how you make protein and your full ingredients list as to whether it comes out vegan, vegetarian or not. So
I didn't know that.
Science and Sport currently haven't got one, but it's something that we are talking around because, as you mentioned, having a supplement, although we would always look at food first and food being your best option, if you're out on the road, if you push for time, supplements, and especially protein, because that's really important for the endurance athlete, that would come into it. So a bar, a shake, a gel, something like that. Yeah, absolutely.
So what else can an endurance athlete do day to day, like even when they're not training, just to support their development and recovery and that kind of thing?
Yeah, when we look at sports nutrition, it really does three things. It does fueling and recovery around sessions. It does development and promotion of training adaptations. So in that, we're just saying, how does the body get better? And then the third thing is it helps support this idea around optimal body composition. And we say optimal body composition, not specifically weight loss or weight gain, because there's no right or wrong answer for an athlete. Every athlete's body composition is going to be different. When you look out there at the female peloton, there's climbers, there's sprinters, there's people going for different jerseys. Each one of those riders is going to have different demands, and their body composition is going to be slightly different. So yeah, that third one we always talk about is optimizing body composition. And day-to-day nutrition has a role to play in all those three things. As Simone mentioned, periodization of training also means periodization of sports nutrition and general nutrition. Day-to-day workloads, day-to-day volumes change, and in that you'd see carbohydrate change. One thing to keep in mind though is protein should never really be compromised. You need to get that in day-to-day and keep it elevated.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I've had quite an interesting question in from Nigel Best. Hi Nigel, thank you for your question. So he's quite interested in carbo loading in advance of a big day in the saddle. He's heard a lot about it, but he's actually insulin dependent diabetic. So what would you recommend for him?
That's an incredibly tough question without getting into his personal nutrition. It's all about the manipulation of nutrients, carbohydrate loading, and where he gets those from. So he'll know what works best for him in terms of the carbohydrate he can have and the carbs that he has to stay away from, and how those would look across a normal day. If he can maintain that carbohydrate intake through foods that his body's accustomed to and he knows works for himself, but almost take a couple of things away. So it seems strange that as soon as someone says carbohydrate loading, we're thinking, okay, we're going to smash a load of more calories in. It's not always the case. If he can take out a little bit of fibre and a little bit of fat from the day before, he'll naturally see that digestion of carbohydrate is going to be pushed slightly more into the muscle. And that's the goal of carbohydrate loading, to get that muscle and liver full of energy, ready to go come event day, whatever it might be.
Okay.
Question on that. Actually, what's interesting actually is when people say carbo load, I've always, towards, say for instance, if I'm doing like a big day, I won't necessarily eat loads more carbs the day before. I will slightly increase it maybe 2 or 3 days to kind of then build it. Would that be something that you'd recommend?
Absolutely. I think for a lot of sports nutrition, it's going to be very individual. So if you've worked on that and you know that works over time, then that's perfect. There's both ways to do it. Is 2 to 3 days slowly starting elevating carbohydrate stores, or to achieve it all in the day before. Both work, both are great options, and it's then about working on your personal nutrition, working with each individual athlete to get what is best for that athlete, because that's ultimately where we need to be.
So speaking of carbohydrates, I'm just going to move on to gels because we have a question from Matt Bundy, and he wants to know how many gels he should take on a club ride and what's the difference in brands, because there's tons of brands out there, right? So like are they all created equal, or are there differences? First of all, like Matt, how far are you riding? That's probably the first question, right?
Yeah, that duration and intensity are two massive factors. When someone says club ride, I think we all know as people who have been on the bike before, they start to get a little bit intense at times. That easy club ride doesn't necessarily exist. We've all probably been guilty of it in the past. So yeah, in him saying it's a club ride, I'm going to be talking then about more the top end fueling numbers. And if he's looking at his high zone 3, zone 4, even pushing it a little bit further, then we're around 60 to 90 grams of carbohydrate per hour. There's no right or wrong combination of products necessarily to get you there. As an example, we mentioned earlier, energy gel, 22 grams of carbohydrate, so he might be 3 gels an hour. But if you want to change a gel for a bar or use a sports drink, then it might be that half a bottle of electrolyte mix and 1 gel gets you through that hour. And it's all about planning per hour. You were saying on the bike in a race, you know what you're going to do every single hour,
Yeah.
and it's that planning, thinking ahead of time as to this is hour 1, done. On to the next hour, this is what I'm going to do.
Okay.
Always plan.
So I'm personally a bit of a plodder on the bike.
Yeah.
I like to go long distances, but I like to have a nice long day out. So I'm not kind of pushing myself, but I do like to take like a few sort of energy gels with me. For someone like me who prefers sort of distance, like I'll quite happily do 100 miles plus in a day at quite a nice pace. What do you kind of recommend for that?
You still see some level of carbohydrate intake, so you're in a great place already doing that. And it's all relative as well. You're saying that you're not quite working hard, you like to keep it steady, you're still stressing the body. So it might not be that you're right up at the top fueling numbers that we spoke through in a race, but doing something every half an hour for you might work a lot better in that situation. So 40, 60 grams of carbs every hour, not up at the 90 and the real top end number that we're thinking of. And it's always good to think doing it little and often, as opposed to getting to that point where you absolutely crack 4 or 5 hours in and then think about sports nutrition. It's drip feed that body as you go almost.
Yeah. Okay. So we've mentioned gels. Just you might have, if you've just joined us, hello and welcome to our conversation with Science and Sport. And you might have noticed in the comments, there's a ton of people shouting out flavours. They're not just shouting out their favourite flavours. So this morning I polled our office to see what Wiggle's favourite Science and Sport isotonic gel flavour is, and we came up with an answer. So you need to guess what our favourite flavour is here in the Wiggle office. I've pinned a comment on here, so you'll be able to go to the page that has all the flavours on it. You need to tell me what the Wiggle favourite gel flavour is, and if you get that right you will go into a draw and you could win a signed Team GB jersey. So that is signed by the women's track cycling team that are the current holders of the Olympic gold in the Team Pursuit. So good luck with that. We're getting loads of answers. Now blackcurrant seems popular, and tropical too. Tropical's one of the newer ones, isn't it? Is it?
I haven't tried the tropical yet.
The two newest of vanilla and fruit salad. They came out last
fruit
summer.
Salad, yeah. I haven't tried fruit salad either.
Haven't you?
No.
Yeah, give that one a try.
I'll have to give that one a go.
Yeah.
That sounds delicious. Now, I've got a question from a lady called Pauline Hammy, who is a regular viewer. She was with us last week as well. So hello to you, Pauline.
Hi.
And I'm going to struggle with this word, I'm so sorry, but she has hypothyroidism. Sorry if I said that wrong. So it means her body basically struggles to get nutrients from food. She takes supplements, iron, vitamin C, selenium, B12 and vitamin D.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you would suggest for energy on long rides?
That's, without knowing medical background, I think that's a really tricky one.
Yeah.
I'd probably suggest going to a GP with that, to be perfectly honest with you. I think that becomes a little bit medical, and the advice we'd always say and what we'd work on is, if you want to introduce something new, always take a nutrition label and an ingredients list to someone with a medical background. And with it being a medical condition, you can start to talk through, this is what I'm going to potentially use, this is the ingredients list, this is where the energy is going to come from. And almost start the conversation that side with a GP or a medical professional, I'd suggest.
Sounds pretty smart to me, yeah. So,
do it that way around.
Pauline, I hope that helps with that answer. One thing you've brought with you today is the beta fuel. I was kind of drawn to this because it's quite a chunky packet. It's a lemon and lime flavour, which is probably really nice. But I wanted to know a bit more about that actually. Like, how is it different? Because it's quite a heavy packet. What would I get from that? Why would I want that?
So I think if we look at where sports drinks have come from, we were talking about this just before going online, that classic sports drink, 500 ml of fluid, 30 grams of carbohydrate as a general guideline. That doesn't do a lot for each of us as individuals. We all need different levels of fluid intake and energy intake on the bike or racing or wherever it might be. What we've done with Beta Fuel, and you're right to mention that it's quite a big packet, it's because we can now pack significantly more energy into that 500 ml of fluid. So that's 80 grams of carbs inside a single bottle. Same energy as 4 gels. So if you think that energy and how long that would fuel, an hour, 4 hours, whatever it might be, we're almost looking at this bottle of Beta Fuel now. It's not energy and hydration, just think about it as energy. You've then got the other bottle on the bike that's going to be water, electrolyte tablets, something to just think about your hydration needs. And it's almost that second generation of sports drinks that we're starting to see come through now, that no longer have we all got to do exactly the same thing from that same one bottle. We can be a little bit more individualised and a little bit more tailored in getting super high carbohydrate inside one bottle.
So if somebody was drinking that, would you also then mix it with, would you just purely stick to that drink and then once you've finished it go on to the other one, or can you recommend to mix?
There's 2 different ways that we're thinking of using that. The first one is drinking little and often. So if you were to have half a bottle of that an hour plus a gel, that would get you around 60 grams of carbohydrate. That could be an hour. If you were to look ahead of time at a route profile and you knew a section was going to get pretty intense and there wasn't going to be, we all know that taking a gel out of your pocket and opening an energy bar, those things in sports nutrition are probably the hardest things to do. If you've got an hour of a pretty intense climb and then a technical descent and you don't want to be trying to worry about food or opening things, then just drinking a whole bottle of that inside an hour gives you that hour and it gets you through that section. So look at your route profiles or look at what you've got coming up for the day. That can either be an hour of energy or used in your standard fuel.
Okay. So keep your questions coming in if you've got any events you're training for, if you've got any nutrition questions, keep those coming and we'll try and answer as many as possible. I was just laughing at this comment by Panos Zio, maybe? Sorry if I've said that wrong. I always mispronounce people's names on this show. So Panos knows what GCN's favourite flavour is, and he's put the little beer icon. If you watch the Global Cycling Network show, you'll probably get that. They do like a good beer on there. Also,
they also came to the Sansa Sport factory and made a beer flavoured gel.
Did they?
Yeah, so I think Matt Stevens did that video maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, it came up to our warehouse, got in the little kitchen lab and actually made a beer flavoured gel. I didn't get to try it, unfortunately. I'm not sure the factory's recovered fully from his visit. It was quite an interesting day.
Did he do lots of tasting?
I think he tried a few gels that day. I think there's a few made that he tried. No, that might be where that one comes from.
Wow. I'm not sure I'd like a beer. I do love a good beer, but don't know if I'd like.
Can't seem to get into the beer.
Oh no, I love it. After a ride, maybe that's not the best thing to refuel with, but I do like it.
There's definitely a place for it.
Okay, so going back onto Beta Fuel as well, that's a product that you've already used with professional athletes, so it's kind of been tried and tested. You've used it with Team Sky. I think we were talking about that before we went live.
Yeah, absolutely. That was developed alongside Sky throughout the start of last season, so that through winter training camps and the classics was where they were using that as a product, getting some feedback into our new product development team and how we could improve it. And then it was stage 19 of the Giro. I think everyone remembers that stage where Froome 80k solo to victory, puts himself in the pink jersey. It played a massive part in that stage as well, and it came out afterwards that sports nutrition made a huge difference in that ride, and Beta Fuel, or Rocket Fuel as it was kind of called within Team Sky, because it didn't have a name yet, they called it Rocket Fuel.
Oh, why didn't you go with that?
I don't know. I'm not the marketing team.
Yeah.
Not sure.
Yeah. Oh man, I'd love something called rocket fuel. That'd be great. Can you just talk a bit about sort of why so many elite athletes do choose science in sport? Why is that? I know that you supply quite a lot of the pros, and obviously Simone is a huge fan there as well.
Yeah, I think it's trust and quality are two massive things that come through when you look at elite athletes. They want to know that any equipment, nutrition, anything that they're doing is truly going to support performance, and it's going to give someone that edge or get them over the line first. It's fine margins exist for a reason, and if someone can get there just ahead of someone else's wheel, then that could make a massive difference in a race. And can you track it back to Team Sky winning 5 Grand Tours using our products over the last 3 years? There was 64 medals at the Commonwealth Games in the Gold Coast last year with science and sport athletes. It's all about that trust, that quality, and as we spoke about on Beta Fuel specifically, we develop products alongside those elite athletes, and we really listen to their requests and develop something that is going to support performance. And what that does, and it's great for the everyday athlete out there and someone on the bike at the weekend, it gives you that insight into what is needed at the top level, and it enables you to use very similar products and the same products that the pro peloton are using. You can fuel your ride at the weekend, and you know it's going to really support performance.
Great. I do like just in cycling you can ride the same roads as the pros, and you can like take the same nutrition. You just can't really ride as fast as them. That's by the by, but it's great stuff. So we're going to take a few more questions from our audience, but I'd just like to remind you about a competition. We're giving away a signed Team GB jersey from the reigning champions in the team pursuit at the Olympics. So you will only have another 10 minutes to win that, and then I'll be giving you the answer. So the question is, and I did do a poll of the office earlier, what is Wiggles' favourite science and sport isotonic gel flavour? And if you look in the comments on this video, you will see that I've posted a link to the product, so you can see the list of flavours. There's a lot of them. I won't go into that right now. Just take a guess. What's Wiggles' favourite flavour? And if you guess right, you will go into a draw to win that jersey. So you have 10 minutes. So we will call it at well, let's say. Actually, I'm going to be not very generous. I'm going to say 25 minutes past. Okay, that's less than 10 minutes. Okay. So get your answers in. So I've got another question from one of our viewers, Daniel Ashcroft. So I think we went through this a bit earlier, but I think this one's for you, Simone. Okay. How does your weekly training generally work? Double training days, rest, active recovery days, etc. So we touched on that a little bit earlier, I think, but can you just talk us through that?
How does it work? I do train twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. I always swim in the morning, so I'm always in the pool for 6:15, 6:30. So I'll always get the swim done, purely because it's my weakest and my less favourable one. So I like to just get that done. Normally in the afternoon, I'm also working as well. I've been working all last year when I've been competing, so I tend to train some clients, and then in the afternoon I will then jump on the bike. During the week, I do no more than 2.5 to 2 hours on the turbo, and they're very structured sessions. So we'll, depending on what we're working on, we'll either work on sustained efforts or top end speed efforts or something like that. And I tend to leave the endurance rides towards the weekends. I do my gym sessions, so my strength and conditioning sessions, always at the end of the day. So I'll always make sure that I get my swim, my bike and my run sessions done first. And I do that because they are the more important sessions, and the strength and conditioning sessions are basically like an accessory, so I'll tend to work on little areas I feel that I need to work on, whether that be core work or glute work or just hip stability stuff. My running, I tend to do again more late afternoon as well. Like I tend to do 2 threshold type sessions during the week, and then my longer runs normally at the weekends. I think in terms of balance, I would probably say I bike the most, and then I run, and then I swim. So I do as less swimming as possible. but yeah, so hope that helps.
Okay. And then I've got another one on the sort of nutrition side for Ben. So this is from Philip Wilson. And he wants to know the minimum ride length or time you would do before using a Rego recovery drink.
Okay. Think about time and intensity.
Mm-hmm.
So some of your structured efforts might be 60 minutes on the turbo, absolutely breaking yourself.
Yeah.
That would warrant both protein and carbohydrate intake. So that Rego shake is a combination of those 2 nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
There's no real time split off. I always combine intensity and duration. Think about 2 of them. If you've done an easy 90-minute spin, then after that length, it might be that just real food gets you through recovery.
Mm-hmm.
If you've started to work hard, and you'll know when you've worked hard, and you get back after a session that you programmed in the week, and it's playing with that as opposed to being specific of under an hour I use a Rego, over an hour I don't, that kind of thing. It might be that thinking around intensity starts to get you into a little bit of a more structured recovery program.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not about the quantity of the work, I guess. It's about the quality of the work, isn't it?
But then if you're out there for over an hour and a half, 2 hours at that point, that would, even if it's at a lower intensity ride, that's still going to tax the body in a big way. So you'd put in some form of recovery shake there as well.
I tend to pick the most, like the hardest session out of the day, and whatever the hardest session is, I'll always have a Rego after that session. But because sometimes I train 2 to 3 times a day, I will then just have the Whey 20 after more the easier sessions.
Can you just sort of clarify what the difference is between the Rego and the Whey for anyone that doesn't know? I don't
Absolutely. It's all about carbohydrate content. So a Rego has a 20 gram carbohydrate, 20 gram protein serving. So those 2 nutrients that we've spoke through quite a lot. Rego also then has vitamin and mineral profile, electrolyte profile. It's kind of that all-in-one recovery type idea. A whey protein shake is, as it says, it's just your protein component. So it'd be lower calories, lower carbohydrate, minimal fats, and it's that, just protein serving for muscle recovery.
Okay, cool. So you would go with the 1 Rego for your harder session, and then you'd also have Whey after your other sessions as well,
So I'm always having some sort of protein.
Yeah. So that's really the key, isn't it? Getting that protein in.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, cool. So let me just check on the time. I'm not being rude looking at my watch, because you've got if you're watching and you want to enter that competition for the signed Team GB jersey, you only have 1 more minute to do it. So let us know what you think our favourite gel flavour is. We're just going to take another couple of questions, and then we'll be able to reveal the answer and hopefully the winner. So, so we've got a couple of crazy endurance athletes. So firstly, I will go with the question from Tony Brown. He is going for his first ultra in June, which is 100 kilometres, which that's just mind-boggling to me for a run. I'm quite happy riding that because I've got wheels and it's easier, but running...
What's that in miles?
62?
Miles.
62
miles?
Yeah.
20, it's like 3 marathons.
So he's
half marathons in one crash.
That's a long way.
So, Tony, well done for you taking that on. That's pretty cool. He wants some advice on sort of a ratio of nutrition to go for. So, how much carbs, how much protein, how much fats do you think he'll need to make it through the day, to make it through that run?
Probably looking at still keeping a carbohydrate intake at a per hour basis, because it's easier to calculate at that range. So somewhere in and around 60 grams of carbohydrate every hour. Then every 3 to 4 hours is when you probably look at protein intake. So maybe every 3 hours you get something with a higher protein concentration, and it might be that is a whole food option that again gives you some other nutrients, a little bit of fat in there as well. It's going to be hard to play with fats because, as we mentioned earlier, the digestion rates are significantly slower, and the stress you're putting your body under at that point, there's going to be minimal blood flow around the stomach to actually support that digestion of protein and fats. So it might be that have a look where the aid stations are, and at that point in the run, that's when you might want to start thinking about a little bit of protein and a little bit of fats. I do know some ultra endurance athletes that just get through it on carbohydrate and deal with it afterwards. It depends on how you're looking in terms of your goals for the actual. Is it just get to the finish line, or are you thinking about really pushing on and wanting to look at the time, and all of those factors start to play in? But yeah, start early with lots of food, and ultras are crazy things.
I think just to touch on that point, in terms of the nutrition, a lot of people tend to go into a race thinking that they've got to come up with a nutrition strategy. Your nutrition strategy should be what you also do in training.
Right.
So, don't just look at it as what am I going to have in the race. Look at what you're going to do in the race, what you do in training. So obviously the body comes, obviously you need to train your digestive system for it, don't you? So I think that's really important to kind of get your nutrition strategy sorted in your training to allow you to then be able to do it in your race.
And I guess it'll get you used to kind of being able to eat on the go and how you react to certain products as well.
Absolutely.
So it's a good plan. So I'm calling time, by the way, on the competition. So I've been asking you to guess what Wiggles' favourite gel flavour is. So I will be revealing that in a second.
Did you guess? Or do you know?
I know the answer, so I'm not going to guess.
Am I allowed to guess? Because actually I have no idea what it is.
Okay,
Shall I say what my guess is?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, you can. It's not going to influence anything now because we've called time on it. So if you get it right, then that's...
I think it's going to be fruit salad.
Do you think?
Yeah. I don't know why. I think it's because it's my favourite. So I'm like,
that should be the right answer.
Do you know what I mean? Everyone else was like that one.
Does it taste anything like those fruit salad sweets that you used to get at the corner shop?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it does.
How come you never come up with blackjack? Is it blackjack?
Oh, blackjack. That could be the next flavour.
Can you imagine?
Beer and blackjacks.
Yeah, get onto the whoever does the flavours, tell them blackjacks, we want those. Who would eat blackjack out there? Give us a like if you eat blackjack, and we'll use that as evidence. So I'll reveal the winner in a second. I'm just trying to get to grips with my spreadsheet because I need to make sure it's fair and that I get all the answers together and then choose one at random. So so we've got a couple of endurance cyclists as well. So I'm just going to ask another question from those. One of them's doing a long distance bike ride over 1,000 miles, and she's going to be self-supported.
Good work.
That's going to be such an adventure. Where are you going? That's Claire Davies, by the way.
I'd like to know where you're going.
Let us know, Claire. She wants to know because obviously she's self-supported. She'll have all her worldly possessions with her practically, and she wants to know whether she needs to carry all of her fuel or, she's gonna have to carry all her fuel or buy it en route. So, what's the best product to carry for multiple days with as little bulk or weight as possible?
Yeah, I'd probably carry some form of carbohydrate sachet.
Yeah.
So Beta Fuel, like we were talking about, it packs a lot of energy into a very small space,
Uh-huh.
so it's going to be significantly easier for packing.
Yeah.
Then some form of, I mean, it depends where you're going, shout out where you're going, but maybe some form of protein or recovery sachet.
Mhm.
That, when we look at the travelling athlete, and it very much sounds similar to what you're going to be doing, maintaining protein intake is always the hardest thing when you think of someone out on the road for so long or having to travel between races, whatever it might be. And I'm imagining that being out for that challenge that you're going to take on, you're not quite sure where your protein ingestion is going to come from, and that's going to be the key nutrient that supports muscle recovery. I imagine it'd be very easy to buy carbohydrates, fruits, breads, pastas, rices. Those kind of products might come quite easily on the road to you, energy bars. So those are the ones you can potentially leave at home. Taking something for hydration and energy in the bottle, and then something that might cover off your protein in recovery is where I'd start to look at.
Mhm. Good advice. Yeah, it's like what is it? Desert island discs. What would you if you were on a desert island? What would you take with you?
What would you take?
You know,
No idea. Don't ask me that, because I don't like questions on the spot like that. I could probably answer you if I had like the day or two to think about it.
Would you take a turbo with you?
What
Would
I take?
would that be one of your three?
I take my trainers.
Take your trainers.
I
Okay.
take my trainers. Yeah.
You just swim run.
Ooh, Claire. So Claire's got back to us, and she's doing the Trans-Alba race around Scotland.
Good girl.
Yeah, that'll be hilly, right? I guess it will be,
Yeah.
Claire. I don't think there's much flat in Scotland from my
No.
experience of it anyway.
It's cold actually.
Panos is worried about this jersey as well. Panos, he's the guy that commented on the beer flavour. Now he's thinking that the jersey's haunted. it's not haunted. We've actually got a fan over here. You can't see it on the camera shot, but this is the warmest room in the office. We've literally got the broom
It is
cupboard
hot.
here. I mean, it's a cafe, obviously. It's the Will
Yes.
Cafe, but it is a cupboard. Okay, so we've been asking you if you can guess what our favourite flavour here at Wiggle Towers is of the isotonic gels, and so your answers have been coming in thick and fast all throughout the show. Now you thought it was going to be fruit salad,
I
right?
did, yes.
Yeah, okay. I can tell you it's not that,
Is
so
it?
I'm so sorry, but it's not fruit salad.
Everyone is wrong.
I think it's because it's fairly new though. I think
Yeah.
if we tried the fruit salad,
Yeah.
then we'd probably love it, but it's probably just too new.
It's going to be something simple, isn't it? Like the
It is really, really disappointingly simple actually. So let me just. I don't know if Gav's ready with the chart, because I just need to verify this very quickly. So I can reveal that the favourite flavour in Wiggle is orange.
good old orange.
It's tried and tested. It was
Classic
really,
school swing.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
the classic. It was super close though with lemon and lime, and earlier in
Yeah.
the day I honestly thought lemon and lime was going to win, because that was like far and away the lead, and then orange just snuck it back in the last.
Just tipped it.
My favourite flavour actually is cherry, so I was surprised that not enough people said cherry, but
How many people voted vanilla?
vanilla.
Yeah.
Not many actually. So have we still got the pie chart on screen? Yeah, so you can see that's the orange slice of the pie there. There was 52 that responded in the office. And yeah, so that's not...
Oh, pink grapefruit did well.
Yeah, it did, didn't it? So yeah,
Yeah,
pink
actually.
grapefruit. Actually, that is one of my favourites,
Yeah.
I have to say, alongside cherry. One of the guys in the office actually said it depends on his mood. And if he's
Okay.
like really smashing it and he's really like unhappy, then he likes the lemon and lime because of the sharpness.
Okay, yeah. Makes
So
sense.
yeah, so there you go. So you're probably wanting to know who the winner is. Now, not as many people guessed orange as I thought they might do. But I've just put our, I've exported all of your comments very scientifically to a spreadsheet and selected a number at random, and I can reveal that it is Gary Bateman who will be winning this wonderful jersey. So, well done, Gary. We will be getting in touch with you on our instant messenger over Facebook, so we can arrange delivery of that. So well done, and thank you all for entering. Now there's only one thing left to do. This
Integrating this part.
yeah, this Panos character. I'm sorry, but he's saying fish and chips. We're not doing fish and chips gel. I don't know. He said, "Is that your favourite flavour, Panos?" Yeah, I'm not sure that's going to sell. Maybe there's a market out there for it. So yeah, so we're moving on to the most important part of the show. Now, if you are a regular at the Wiggle Café, you'll know that we have a ping-pong challenge going on. It's quite competitive. The aim of the game is to bounce a ping-pong ball, so it has to bounce off the table into this cup here. You've got 3 minutes to do it, and if you fail, you get a DNF.
So it's as many as you can get in.
No, you just have to do it once.
Okay.
That will be enough. You will find.
That's the way we're
That's why I was thinking, how many do you have to get in? And like, okay, fine.
It's quite possible to DNF. We
Yes.
had Nick Anderson from Polar, who was actually a Team GB coach.
Do you know, so I actually run under Nick Anderson.
Oh my goodness!
So-
So you need to.
I need to finish this.
He's gonna hate the day he ever came in as well, because I
Right.
mention him every week. I'm so sorry, Nick.
How
but
long ago was this?
That was about a month ago, wasn't
Was it?
Gav? I'm just looking at our cameraman Gav, because he was here to witness the whole spectacle himself. I'm just clearing the table so you've got a clear space to work with. So, people out there, you if you want to get your guesses in as to who's going to go first.
Do you know what I'm gonna go for? I'm gonna get it out of the way.
Are you?
Yeah, it's like my swimming.
Okay, yeah. So I'll get the timer on my.
Do I have to
Phone
sit
in
on
a
the seat or can I
second.
kneel down?
You can. Oh, I don't know.
Is it on
We've never actually.
I feel
Everyone.
like I need to get ready.
Everyone
zone for
has.
this.
Everyone has done it seated.
Okay,
Can we
fine.
allow people to just choose whether they kneel down or not? Do you think, Gav?
Yeah, I think as long as they still just one bouncing in, that's the only stipulated rule. So, however you want to stand or sit is up to you.
You've got this.
Oh my god.
Oh my
Sorry,
God,
I'm
actually.
having technical issues with my phone because I almost put you on for 3 hours, and we're not going to give
Oh,
you
really?
3 hours. We're going to
Imagine
give
what
you
you get in 3 hours.
3 minutes to get that ball into the cup. So it needs, just a reminder, bounce off the table into the
Bounce.
cup.
Okay.
Okay, and get your guesses in, viewers. Will Simone do it? How long will it take her? She's got 3 minutes, starting from 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, too hard. Oh, I nearly went in. Okay. Ooh. Oh. I need to get. Oh my god, this actually might be a
Sheila
DNF.
Pan- Oh, yes! So that stopped on 2:28. So you took 32 seconds.
Oh
Two.
wow! Oh, that wasn't too
Thanks.
bad. Thank you.
So I will make a note of that.
Yeah, Nick.
Wow.
32.
Your run session is going to be horrible from now on. Yeah, it's
So
going
proud.
to program some horrible little run
Oh
sessions.
god, how funny! I'll pick the rest of them actually.
That's okay. So that's 32 seconds exactly, actually,
Ben.
Pressure.
and that's
Bring
what
it.
you've got.
Big
to
pressure.
beat.
So that puts you up to third on the board. So
That's not too
That's
bad.
Third, yeah.
That is not bad.
So So we'll start again in a second. Thank you for
Thank
I'm
you.
just sitting here while you do all the work, Simone.
That's
I'm
all
sorry.
right. Do you want my winning seat?
No, I'm going to say hey now. I'm going to go with this one. I like the angle.
It's all about the strategy, isn't it? So guys,
Okay.
right, do you think that Ben is going to beat Simone?
Oh,
so she got 32 seconds.
Oh, you mean wet ball as well? All the pressure. You just try to stack the deck.
I will write this up properly. But I'm just making a note of that so I don't forget.
I feel nervous.
So that was 32 seconds, exactly. Is Ben going to beat her? Find out in a second. So we will start the clock in 3, 2, 1. Simone won't be beaten, says Daniel Ashcroft. He's got faith. What do you think, guys? How long do you think it's going to take, Ben? We think this might be another DNF at this rate.
No!
Simone for the
I'm
win, Matthew Cook. Simone for
I'm
the
just
win.
holding my hand. I don't know what it's for.
This is rubbish. This is so-
We're on
We're
to
gonna-
a minute, Ben.
We're going to run out of
No
pressure.
No pressure at all. We're on to a minute.
Oh, this is not gone well, has it?
No.
This is the pressure of Facebook Live.
Yep. Never do live.
Never do live
Challenges.
Facebook.
So we're on to 125.
Oh,
Hands.
No pressure. We're almost onto the halfway mark. I thought I wasn't looking
Oh.
then, and I thought it had gone in. Our cameraman, you can't see him, but he's like,
Oh, how did you do that? I need
he's on the
coaching through
floor, batting back
Oh,
these
what?
balls because we've run out.
I'm starting to get fatigued.
This is why
Oh, I got it in the little
Oh,
cup.
you got it in the little cup actually.
that should be a bonus.
This is-
Okay, we're on a 2:10.
Oh, this is all sorts of did not finish. I'm with your run coach here.
Yeah.
Just gonna throw them all at one go in a minute.
Okay, you've got 30 seconds.
There, come on. You got
Right.
it.
Come on,
Focus.
focus.
This one.
Got it.
Concentrate.
Soft hands.
20.
Oh, nearly.
Yes!
Oh, there you go.
Oh, that was so hard.
That was 2:43.21.
Oh,
2:43.
that's terrible.
Yeah, I'll write this up.
I'm tired.
You're thrilled. I'll write this up immediately later so we know what we've got to beat.
2:43.
Okay,
That's poor.
so just to recap, where
Simone
are you,
takes the win
Simone?
with
So
ease.
you got 32 seconds exactly. That puts you just above Steph from Fern and just below Nick from Fern.
Okay.
And unfortunately, we've got a new last place.
2.
Well, not quite last place because we've also got Nick, your running
Nick.
coach, as a DNF. DNF. So, Nick, I am so sorry, but Simone has beaten you at this game with her 32 seconds. So, yeah, so
Well
just to
played.
recap,
Yeah.
Ben 2:43.21.
Can't go back to the office.
I know, right?
Can't go
I
back.
know, how can you hold your head up high now? But you did get in the espresso
Actually, I got you the wrong cup.
in the espresso cup, which is tiny. So I don't know whether that could be like a bonus challenge or what. We might need to make a note of that just to.
I think that's clutching at straws,
So
isn't
you-
it? Yeah.
So you're on the leaderboard for the espresso cup, I think.
Yeah.
I guess that's the way to see it. So, guys, it's been absolutely amazing to have you with us today. I've certainly learned a lot about just fueling and nutrition. It's been absolutely great. Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for joining us at the Wiggle Café again. We will be back next week, and we're going to have some guests in from Friends for Trails, which is it's a couple of ladies that have kind of met through trail running, and they're just going to be talking about kind of their sort of initiative to get more women together, running trails together, buddying up, and they work with Solomon as well. So do tune in to that. I think it'll be really interesting if you are into trail running. Speaking of trail running, we've actually got a trail run with Solomon in the New Forest on March the 30th, so I'll put a link to that in the comments after we've finished. There are still some places left. It is going pretty fast. I think the first slot is almost sold out now. But we've got 3 sessions during the day on March the 30th. We've also got a sportive going on that day as well in the New Forest. So maybe if you know someone that's doing the sportive but you're not really a cyclist, sign up for the trail run. I think it'll be loads of fun. And that's with Solomon on March the 30th. So join us next week, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.